I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a safety net. I had nothing but my hustle, my skills, and a desire to succeed. And in just 2 years, I went from $0 to millions. Let me tell you how I did it, and how you can do the same. It's crazy to think about where I came from. I didn't come from money. In fact, I started off with very little. No one handed me anything. Everything I've built, I've earned. But the one thing I've learned along the way is that wealth isn't about luck. It's about strategy, hard work, and a willingness to take risks. Let me tell you the story of how I went from having absolutely nothing to becoming a millionaire in just 2 years. I was born in Pittsburgh, and to be honest, we didn't have a lot. My dad worked as a car upholsterer, and my mom worked as a medical secretary. But we were middle class at best. We didn't have luxuries. I didn't get to take fancy vacations or drive a nice car. But what I did have was a hunger for something more. I didn't want to live a life of mediocrity. I didn't want to be stuck in the same place forever. From a young age, I learned the importance of hard work. But here's the thing. Hard work alone won't get you rich. You've got to work smart. Let me tell you a story from when I was younger. When I was 12 years old, I started selling garbage bags. Now, selling garbage bags door to door might sound like a joke, but for me, it was a valuable lesson. I wasn't good at it at first. I didn't know how to sell, but I learned quickly. I realized that if I believed in what I was selling, others would believe in it too. That's when I learned the value of sales and how it could change your life. When I went to Indiana University, I wasn't just focused on school. I was focused on getting ahead. I sold everything I could get my hands on. I sold T-shirts. I sold books. Anything I could find. I didn't care what I was selling, as long as I was making money. At one point, I was working as a bartender. I wasn't exactly good at bartending. In fact, I was pretty terrible. But you know what I was good at? Talking to people. I realized that being a bartender wasn't just about pouring drinks. It was about connecting with people. You could say I was selling the experience. The same principles apply to business. You can have the best product in the world, but if you can't sell it and connect with people, it doesn't matter how good your product is. After college, I moved to Dallas. I had no money, but I had big dreams. I was working at a software company, and they didn't know what they were doing. I knew I could do better. So I left, and I started my own business called Micro Solutions. Now, at this point, I had nothing. I didn't have investors. I didn't have money in the bank. I had a tiny office, a couple of computers, and a whole lot of hustle. I started cold calling potential clients, selling software solutions, and doing whatever I could to get people to trust me. I wasn't the smartest guy in the room, but I was the hardest working. Let me tell you, when you're starting from scratch, you've got to be willing to do things that other people won't do. You have to go above and beyond. I was working 20-hour days, driving all over the place, doing whatever I had to do to make a sale. And that's how I built Micro Solutions from the ground up. One of the best things I did was sell my services before I even had a product. I sold people on the idea, not the product. It wasn't about convincing them I had the best software. It was about convincing them that I was the person they could trust to solve their problems. That's a lesson that still applies to everything I do today. Fast forward a few years, and I'm starting to make a name for myself. But I wasn't done. I knew there was more to be done, more money to be made, and more opportunities to seize. So I went out and started Broadcast.com, a streaming service. People thought I was crazy. They laughed at the idea. At that time, no one thought people would watch video online. But I did. I saw the potential and I went all in. I didn't wait for things to be perfect. I just started. I launched the service and we started gaining traction. Here's the thing about timing in business. It's not just about finding the right idea. It's about being in the right place at the right time and having the guts to execute when others are too scared to take the leap. I went to the bank and got a loan for the business, and then I used that money to get our product in front of as many people as possible. Eventually, Yahoo came knocking, and they offered $5.7 billion to buy broadcast.com. It was a huge win, but it wasn't just about the money. It was about taking a chance, betting on myself, and being willing to go all in when others thought it was a gamble. I didn't stop there. I went on to buy the Dallas Mavericks, a move that changed my life even more. People thought I was insane. The Mavericks were struggling. They weren't winning games. The team was a mess, but I didn't care. I knew that if I could sell the vision, if I could connect with the fans, I could turn the whole thing around. And that's exactly what I did. People love the idea of owning a professional sports team, but they don't understand the amount of hard work that goes into it. It wasn't just about getting the players right. It was about creating a culture, a brand, and an experience. The success of the Mavericks wasn't just about basketball. It was about selling a story that people could connect to. When we turned the Mavericks around, it was a perfect example of how you can take something that seems like a lost cause and turn it into a massive success, just by having the right mindset, the right team, and being willing to put in the work. You see, after turning the Mavericks around, I realized something crucial. Making millions isn't just about spotting the right opportunity. It's about positioning yourself to take advantage of them. So, let's get into the nuts and bolts. You want to make millions? Here's how you do it. Rule number 1, be obsessed with learning. When I was broke and starting out, I read every book I could get my hands on about business, sales, negotiation, and investing. Every single day. And here's the thing. It didn't stop when I made my first million. To this day, I read for hours each week. I remember meeting a young entrepreneur who said, "Mark, how do you stay ahead of everyone else?" I told him straight up, read more than they do, learn faster than they do, and execute quicker than they ever will. That stuck with him, and within a year, he launched a company that pulled in over 10 million in sales. Rule number 2, sales is non-negotiable. I don't care what industry you're in, sales is king. When I was selling garbage bags at 12, or when I was convincing companies to trust micro-solutions, it all came down to my ability to sell. One time I sat down with a buddy who ran a tech startup, and he told me, Mark, we've got a great product, but no one's buying." I looked him in the eye and said, "That's because you're spending 90% of your time building and 10% selling. Flip that ratio." Within 6 months, he went from being almost bankrupt to landing a $2 million deal. Rule number 3, find your niche and dominate it. People try to do everything at once. That's a mistake. When I launched broadcast.com, I didn't try to compete with everyone. I picked one niche, streaming sports events, and I crushed it. I met a woman once who was trying to open a fitness studio. She was trying to offer yoga, Pilates, CrossFit, spin classes, everything. I told her, pick one, get famous for it, be the best at it, then expand. She took my advice, focused just on spin classes, and turned it into a chain of boutique studios pulling in millions annually. Rule number 4, Be frugal, even when you're winning. You've probably heard the story. Even after I sold broadcast.com to Yahoo and made billions, I still shopped for discounted software and cheap sneakers. Why? Because bad money habits don't magically fix themselves when you make more money. One guy I mentored made his first million and immediately bought a $100,000 car. I told him, "You didn't buy a car, you bought $100,000 worth of liabilities. That's how people go broke fast. Instead, reinvest every dollar into your business or assets that appreciate." Rule number 5, outwork everyone, but do it smart. I don't glorify burnout, but I do believe in working harder and smarter than everyone else. During Micro Solutions, I worked 7 days a week, but I also automated everything I could. A buddy of mine, also a founder, was pulling 80-hour weeks, but wasn't getting anywhere. I said, automate the routine, delegate the rest, and focus on growing the top line. Within a year, he doubled his revenue. Rule number 6, never rely on one stream of income. Here's a story I love sharing. After selling Micro Solutions, I could have retired, but I didn't. Instead, I diversified. I invested in startups, real estate, and sports. A friend of mine lost everything because his entire income came from one product line. When that dried up, he was done. Don't make that mistake. Build multiple income streams, investments, businesses, even side hustles. Rule number 7, be willing to look stupid. When I first pitched broadcast.com, people laughed. When I bought the Mavericks, critics called me crazy. But you know what? The people who laughed are still laughing, and I'm still cashing checks. I remember investing in a startup on Shark Tank that everyone else passed on. They thought the founder was green. I saw hunger and vision. That founder turned that company into a multi-million-dollar brand. Rule number 8, act fast, fail fast, learn fast. The difference between winners and losers? Winners make decisions quickly and adjust as they go. Losers wait for perfection. I lost money on a few ventures early on because I moved fast, but I also learned faster than anyone else, and that's why I kept winning. Rule number 9, surround yourself with smarter people. When I was building Micro Solutions, I hired people who knew more about coding and networking than I did. I focused on sales, leadership, and vision. One of my best hires was a programmer who could solve problems I didn't even understand. That allowed me to focus on strategy and growth. Remember, you don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You need to hire them. Rules number 10, be ruthlessly focused. Distractions are the enemy. I've seen countless entrepreneurs fail because they lost focus. Stay zeroed in on your goal. I once mentored a founder who was working on 3 startups at once. I told him, pick the one with the highest potential and put everything you have into it. He followed my advice, and that single company scaled to over 50 million in revenue. So here's the real takeaway. There's no silver bullet, there's no magic trick. Making millions is about mastering the fundamentals, executing relentlessly, and staying disciplined. Whether you're hustling your first sale, scaling your startup, or closing that life-changing deal, it all comes down to how badly you want it and what you're willing to sacrifice. You have everything you need inside you to make it happen. The tools, the drive, the passion, they're all there. But you've got to take the first step, and then the next, and never stop. Remember, it's your journey, no one else's. And if you're ready to bet on yourself, then I'm telling you, you've already won. Let's get to work.